Joining us first on this story, we have Ross Feingold, who is a political risk analyst, joining us from Taiwan. We know that Rubio has, of course, spoken with the Philippines. He's also been in discussion with his Chinese counterparts. One of those points being discussed was Taiwan, where, of course, you are. But looking at the overall security in the South China Sea and the region, do you think this is America really putting their stand and making a stand against potential Chinese aggression against nations that they are aligned with?
Obviously, for the Trump administration, they've been in office less than a week. But what people in this region are eagerly awaiting, when I say people, I mean governments, militaries, national security, defense experts, they're waiting to see what kind of presence the U.S. military will have under the Trump administration. What kind of presence will they have, for example, in the South China Sea? That will be one of the key areas that people will be looking to see how robust will the U.S. presence be. Other parts of the Western Pacific also fall in that category. How robust will the U.S. presence be in the East China Sea, in the Sea of Japan? How often will the United States exercise with friendly countries like Japan, Korea, Philippines, and Australia? So there are a lot of unknowns at the moment, but I think if we had to guess, it's a safe guess that there will be a robust U.S. presence in this part of the world.
Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, looking at Trump's comments relating to his allies within the region, do you think this is isolating China away from neighbouring nations?
I think that is the intention. But one would also like to add that Trump has, during the past 1 week, mellowed his criticism of China and has indicated yesterday in a Fox interview for the first time that it may not be necessary to have higher tariffs on Chinese goods. As you would recall, during election campaign, he talked about 60% tariffs. It was whittled down to 10% during the inauguration and afterwards. And now it has been hinted that he may or may not have such an agenda. And the two countries may be able to sort this out amicably. One of the first calls President himself made was to Chinese President Xi, who called him actually, and they had a long discussion, apparently on the all gamuts of their bilateral ties as well as the South China Sea situation, etc. Now, Mr. Rubio is well known to be a China hawk, and what he has said is not unexpected, but the first call, once again, being with Wang Yi, the Chinese counterpart, also has a message in itself that instead of sort of talking at each other, they're talking to each other. And here, overall, we should remember President's intention not to get into war situations. He has, in his inaugural speech, also said that U.S. will not be sending troops abroad to fight others' wars.
Yes, apologies to interrupt, Ambassador Sachdev. I just want to pick up on that while we've got Ross here from Taiwan. Obviously, war is a potential. China have promised to reunify with Taiwan. And Trump, in the last 24 hours, has said that he is going to freeze aid to countries other than Israel and Egypt. What impact will that have on Taiwan if they had to defend themselves against China?
Biden has issued approval for U.S. weapons, military equipment to be gifted to Taiwan under something called Presidential Drawdown Authority. Now, Taiwan buys most of the weapons that it receives from the United States. They are generally not gifted weapons. However, former President Biden had used this authority to send a modest amount of military equipment to Taiwan, and that was as much a political gesture as it was a gesture to improve Taiwan's national defense. It was a modest amount of equipment that was involved. But that's poised for the moment under President Trump's order. But I don't think that really affects Taiwan's national security, because Taiwan wasn't looking for these gifts from the United States to be the cornerstone of Taiwan's defense preparations.
And Ross, do you think the potentially political move before of providing the aid as opposed to it being purchased weapons, do you think that was to sort of fend off China? And do you think Trump's move might entice China into an attack earlier?
I don't think Trump's moves will attack China will cause China to attack earlier. There's still the issue of strategic ambiguity, which is the concept that the United States has not publicly said whether or not it would defend Taiwan should Taiwan be attacked. So there's still that possibility until the United States formally issues a new policy that says the United States would not do that. So even though President Trump has been clear that he does not want the United States fighting wars for other countries, when it comes to Taiwan, President Trump has not said the United States would not do that for Taiwan. So certainly the possibility still exists that the United States would come to Taiwan's assistance, and China has to take that into account when planning its own moves.
Sorry, Ross, just to stick with you for one more off the back of that, what do you think the risk is that this might cause a really deep divide between China and the USA if the USA were to have military action within the region?
Well, certainly China doesn't want to see a more robust U.S. presence in the Western Pacific, including the South China Sea. China doesn't want to see the United States grow a closer military relationship with the Philippines, which is something that there's been a lot of progress in recent years. The United States is also drawing even closer in its military relationship with Japan. It has a large military presence in Korea. So all of these moves are things that China will publicly object to. But I think if we look at what happened in the first Trump administration and then continuing into the Biden administration and now Trump is back, I do think we're going to see enhanced security cooperation and enhanced U.S. presence in this part of the world.
Ross Feingold and Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, thank you both very much for joining us.